All right, guys, on this little card, I have gone in and just wet the whole page, dropped in some different yellows and blues, and let them mingle together on the page. And I'm kind of creating that little bokeh background with my filbert brush, which is the brush that looks like a thumbnail. It's kind of rounded on the ends. Like this, you can use smaller ones to do, smaller dots, and bigger ones to do bigger dots. You're just rolling that around in order to create some of these for like a really great bokeh background or something. However, this is also a great way to lift out color from a space without, in order to make other things on there. And today we're going to be working with water droplets and how to do the, I probably shouldn't do this with this brush, but I just want that green out of the center. And so we're going to be working with water droplets in order to do this. Now the background is all wet and it's all, let's just make one right there. Wrong brush. Really takes a rounder brush, and you can just pull it around and gets that wonderful little circle for you, that kind of out of focus. And you can do some like on different layers of backgrounds, so that would help in doing these water droplets. So if a little bit of the green shows through, that's okay, because you're going to want a little bit of that in your water droplet. So, all right. So now we just have to let that dry, and we're going to come back and put in our drops. All right, everybody. This is a nail art pen for people to do artwork when they do your nails and stuff. And I love to use these with my PBO drawing gum or Frisket or whatever. And I like to save out the absolute whites of my watercolor by putting this PBO drawing gum on it. Sorry, there was little something on the end of there and I need to get it off. Okay, so this is a liquid gel. I've got the lid off, so I just want you to see that it's PBO is the brand and drawing gum is the, is what they call it. And if I'm going to have like my light coming through this way, the darkest part of these water droplets are going to actually be at the top. But I want to save out some little highlights. So I'm going to add this drawing gum, which if you can't find this, you can always use Frisket or Misket. So this is going to be the highlights at the top, and this could always be like, water droplets on a window pane, or where you go down. It's not sticking for some reason. There we go. And I just wanted to save those out. And then once again, it's watercolor, right? So you want to let that completely dry. We are going to, everyone, we're going to get ready to do our water droplets. And I chose these greens and blues. And so inside the water droplet, it's just going to be a darker version of any of these in the top. And we're going to do a gradation. So I've got some ultramarine blue that I put a drop of water on, and I'm working up that color into that droplet of water. So it's thick. The water droplet is thick with paint. So it's going to be thick like this, right? Then you clean out your brush. And I did the same with the green. It kind of dropped back over onto this side, but it's pretty thick in there. So That's what we're wanting to do, to get a thicker version of the greens that we have in here. You can always put a little bit of yellow as well. I think the yellow will just kind of stay in the background. Now, when doing a water droplet, you have to know which direction your light is coming in. And since I saved the highlights on this side, my light is coming in over here. However, going right over that shape is going to be a dark. Start with the green in a, see if I can get that a little closer. There we go. I'm going to start with the green, and I'm just going to work my way this way so my hand doesn't set into any of the little water droplets. And I'm going to paint, you know, about halfway around. And then I'm going to clean off my brush, and I'm going to just soften that edge so that it looks like there's a little round drop of something on the paper. Now I can also take a little bit of the dark blue and drop that in to get even darker. I'll get a little bit more blue. And then once again, I'm going to soften that, because you want the color to come down about, you know, 1/2 to 3/4 of the way through the water droplet, but you want this edge to be white. Now there is a scar in the paper right there. Let's see if I can get that off. So we are just softening this edge, creating this soft little bubble with the white on the outside. And then we're going to have to put in the shadow side. So the shadow is going to be a little bit darker, but I'm actually going to, I don't want it to just be blue, even though putting blue on top of this green will create, you know, a tealy color. I want to create that tealy color. So I'm just going to move over here with the green, with the blue, and this is a nice dark teal color. So hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to softly, or just very carefully, actually, not softly, but very carefully put in a tiny little shadow from the water droplet onto the leaf or whatever this green background happens to be. There is a little something that has scarred the paper here, so I may have to keep lifting out the green. It keeps wanting to run into there, but you can already see that it's starting to be like a water droplet. And when I take this PBO drawing gum off, it is really going to have this bright, bright, bright white highlight on it. So let's do another one. We're going to come most of the way around, not all the way, straight across. Now, if there were veins or something, like if this were on top of a leaf and you saw veins coming through here, your water droplet's going to act like a magnifying glass. And so if you did really thin lines here, when it comes through here, it's going to be thicker. So I do need to drop the darker into the top, and this is just the blue mixing with the green on the paper. So I'm adding that, and then I'm just softening the edge. That's a lot of blue. Let's try that again. Whoops. What's really good to do is make a few water droplets on something. I mean, it could be your kitchen counter. And then just kind of study them, look at them, and see what the different light sources can make. So if you have, you know, light coming straight down, how it makes like the ring around them instead of just this one shadow. You're going to have a light and a dark in your shadow, which is really interesting. And so we're going to let that dry. Come back. Oops, I picked up the dark. Come back and pick up the green. I pretty much do the water droplets, and then I come back and put in the shadows and expose the white. Now keep watching as any color that runs into your white space, you need to just kind of make sure you lift that back out. Even in this one, it got a little bit too green for what I like. And there isn't any reason too that you can't come back and add, you know, more green to the top. So it will look more like that, which I like. Okay, back to this one. We're just gonna soften this edge. That's just adding a little bit of water to let that paint run out into this white space. I'm gonna chop a little bit, whoops, grab the wrong blue. Little bit of blue at the top and go the next one. This is a little bit different green. It is Hooker's green, so it's going to have a little bit of that blue to it already. And since it's just such a small dot, I didn't want to do too many colors in, so that some of them can be lighter, some of them can be darker. You know, you get to do whatever you want. I do like to make sure I make them nice and even, but not all water drops are perfectly round, so keep that in mind. Don't be too, I don't know, stringent about it or strict about it. Just trying to push that dark back up. And this is Strathmore watercolor paper in the student, it's just the yellow pad. So it does have a little bit more of a texture than, say, the Arches does. So it's a little bit more bumpy. And when you lift off, when I was spinning the brush to lift off these little dots and stuff like that, then it can rough up the surface of the paper a little bit easier. But it's still a great paper to do all these little practices on, and you know, just learning. That's pretty thin. Put some pigment up there. One more. Kind of a big guy. Clean it out, run clean water up underneath. If your water's turning really green at this point, you may want to empty that out. And I'm going to put a little bit of blue just to darken that at the top. Well, try again. This one has a straight line going across it as I'm watching each one of these dry, so I'm gonna make sure I lift that out. I don't want any straight lines to happen, and I don't want any harsh. This one has a really harsh line, so I'm just gonna rub that. Might be better to switch to your flat brush or one that you don't want to keep the tip to, but this will, such a small space, I think it'll work. And then back to the green. Right next to that blue. Blend those two colors together. This one got really big with the green, so let's push that back. Okay, and you can switch to your smaller brush if you would like to do these little shadows, and some of them are bigger, so the shadows are going to be larger. This one's going to have just a tiny little line around it, but this one's going to be a little bit larger, and this one's going to be even larger still. So we're going to go into our ultramarine blue, clean it off, clean it out. When I say that, when I clean off my brush, I'm just wiping all the excess paint on a towel before I go to the water. Otherwise, you just dirty up your water really fast. Then I'm going to take a whole lot of green until I can make a nice dark teal. There we go. Go slow on these parts. Be mindful of the sizes. I'm going to clean out everything from this brush and then just barely touch just the tip in order to get, there's something on the tip. There we go. Get a really skinny little line here. Now where I went out here, I just let that completely dry, and then I can push that color back with my water. right, so we have finished painting in our shadows. And now for this really cool highlight, you can use a rubber cement pickup, which looks like this, in order to run that across. But you have to make sure that your paper is very, very dry, that your shadows are, you know, completely dry before you do this. Otherwise, you'll pick up that paint and put it into that white highlight, and it's not going to show. So there's our little highlights to make our water droplets just really shine. They're just so fun to do. Yeah, that one's pretty dry. All right, guys, so we've done our water droplets. You can always go back in and straighten up some of these. I told you I would straighten up this one where it's got a little edge. So I'm just adding a touch of water. I mean, just a touch, right? And I'm lifting off that little edge. Now, if you don't want your water droplets to have, you know, bumpy edges and stuff like that, you want them to be nice and smooth, or if you wanted them to be larger, you can lift off, or you can just come in underneath that highlight and paint just a little bit of paint, and it will smooth out those highlights. I hope you can see that. Whoops, that's a little dark. Hardly any water at all in your brush when you're wanting to do this. That's that scar in the paper. So we'll just have to lift that highlight back out after it's dried. So you can put tiny little bits just to make them nice and even on your highlights if you want to. I don't think they look that bad the way they are, but you can smooth out any rough edges and stuff. All right, so there we go. How to make water droplets and how to do a bokeh background. Thanks a lot, guys.